Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho. Today we'll be talking about a massive stellar X-ray source, referred to as by some as a black hole. Talking about the growth of sunspot 2795, a coronal hole ahead of sunspot 2794, and lensing, some serious lensing. First we're looking at the sun. Here it is in magnetogram and 171 angstroms. Sunspots in the lower left, and coronal hole just ahead of those. The radio flux, a measurement of the outer corona's radio output, still at 86. And there's the 1-year graph of the 10.7 centimeter radio flux. There's the sunspot number progression. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Welcome to cycle 25. And here is the 10.7 centimeter radio flux progression. Next, looking at an intensity gram here to see the growth of sunspot 2795, as well as the rotation there of 2794. Let's zoom in a little bit on that. There you go. You can see the way that leading umbra consolidates. So increased chance for solar flares, and we've got some great helioviewer movies as always, including Comet Erasmus, and you'll also be able to see Mercury moving from behind the aperture arm on the LASCO C3. Here's that. And here's me vanishing. And just bear with me one moment. I want to check the life of the stream. Thanks everybody who tuned in, whether it was live on Twitch or at the YouTube premiere or later on YouTube. Please don't forget to press like and subscribe. And let's get to some more helioviewer movies. But first, got to thank our patrons, the true source of funding for the content. Please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/smAsho. Patreon.com/smAsho. You'll see all kinds of early updates, file drops, and other points of interest. If you become a patron, please consider joining at the $3 per month or higher tier, as we'll be discontinuing the $1 and $2 per month tiers for the new year due to things like inflation. And next we're looking at the local yellow dwarf here at 94 angstroms, another UV emission spectral state of ionized iron. Little bit of minor flaring coming out of sunspot 2795. And again, the chance of solar flares has increased with the growth of that sunspot. It is beta class. And we'll show you some more helioviewer movies toward the end of the video. First, I would remind our viewers to check out the Smash Lights segments if you haven't seen those. We've got all kinds of different playlists over at youtube.com/smashamash/playlists. Perhaps subscribe to those playlists. Also check out our own website, smashamash.com. You can see all the rest of our social media links there, such as Instagram and all kinds of other stuff. Also links to our stores. And if you pick up anything from the smAsho store or the Smash store, don't forget to enter the promo code smAsho. The promo code smAsho, and save 10% on all orders through Christmas. Are you safe yet? Maybe pick up a cloth mask and ask people in public if they think they're safe yet. Hint, they're not. We're also on Twitter, so follow us over there. Exclusive content on all of our social media sites. And we've recently put up a community post or two. New song by Media Bear. Shout out to them. Shout out to Media Bear. Rocking around the Rona tree. Rona around the Christmas tree, rather. And also you can download this GIF for your own personal use. We put a GIF animation up of a helioviewer movie. Perhaps download that. And don't forget to press like and subscribe. We'll take a moment to wait for you to do so. No, that's okay. We'll wait. Also, please share the content on your social media. Thanks to our new subscribers, as well as our loyal subscribers who've been with us for years. I think we've missed 0 days of daily space weather in the last 2 years. Next, we'll check out a diagram of the solar system. As folks are interested in where things like planets are, I like to use the planetstoday.com. There's the current situation in the solar system here on Christmas Eve. There's where things will be in 1 week. One day after the full moon. It'll be a bright night on New Year's Eve if the skies are clear. Here's a star chart from in-the-sky.org. If you're up before dawn, you may see Venus. And we are streaming live to Twitch. It's twitch.tv/smAshomash, a great live streaming platform. They've also got a good mobile app, which will send you notifications when we are live. Again, thanks to all of our Twitch viewers. And let's talk cosmology. Now, sometimes we roll dice. Einstein was convinced that God does not play dice. On the channel, sometimes we do. We roll quantum dice. Today, we don't need to. And check out the gravitational lensing of this distant galaxy. I'll show you a close-up of that. Some serious gravitational lensing there. Is it really caused by gravity, though? In any case, one of the best and most complete lensed images that we've seen ever. And there's a zoom out of the entire shot. That's a Hubble Space Telescope image. And you can find an article about this on phys.org in the Astronomy and Space section. A molten ring. That's located in the constellation of Fornax, the furnace. Again, one of the most complete lensed images that we've seen. Also, another more interesting story to me, as it affects things like cosmology. There appears to be a relationship between the accretion and the output of stellar black hole GRS 1915 plus 105. That's GRANAT, radio source 1915 plus 105. So it appears to have a magnetically oriented disk wind. And this is an interesting one in that there is an intimate relationship between the accretion and the output, apparently. And if you want to look up this one yourself, this one is on the Neil Gorell Swift-Bat X-ray Observatory. Just type in 1915 and you'll find GRANAT, radio source 1915 plus 105. And we're going to show you images of this. Look how variable it is. First of all, this is the X-ray transient output. And that one's going back about 16 years there. And check out the way it's just recently dropped off. It's actually gone into a quiescent state here, which is totally outside of its baseline. And that is over the past about 3 years. It's really dropped off a cliff. So some extreme variability happening there in GRS 1915. And we're going to show you an image of this thing on the Chandra X-ray telescope. And check it out. It looks like a donut. Very interesting object there. Again, perhaps go have a read about that. Looks like it does have some jets, one somewhat oriented toward us and one somewhat oriented away. GRS 1915, an interesting, we consider this to be one of the most massive radio sources within the Milky Way galaxy besides Sagittarius A star. So one of the largest quote stellar black hole end quote objects that we know of. And there's also a Wikipedia article about that. And this one is believed to be about 11,000 parsecs away. And also some oddities with the emissions, perhaps exhibiting superluminal velocities. Is it emitting things at a speed higher than light speed? Well, we're not exactly sure, but that's today's Cosmology segment. We don't want the video to be too long, so let's get back to data. Such as the real-time solar wind, which has subsided a little bit and then come back up again. So there's a 24-hour real-time solar wind. The phi angle has recently shifted, and the wind density came down and then right back up again. So the current solar wind density around 6 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed remains elevated at 577 kilometers per second. Global geomagnetism is at a KP of 2. There's the KP index over the past 3 days. And here's one of our geospace magnetosphere movies, and here's me vanishing. I'm going to shrink that down a little bit so you can see the slider. There we go. And that's 4 hours of data. You can see the solar wind density increased right there. The pickup happened around 9:30 Universal Time. Next, we'll look at ground magnetic perturbations. And we see quite a few, as there is quite a bit of induced magnetism from that increased solar wind speed as the coronal hole wind stream continues. By the way, I was wrong about the electron flux forecast. I'll get to it in a minute. So we're looking at delta B here, changes in the Earth's B field. I'll let it play through a second time, as it's pretty complex. Welcome to the geomagnetic excursion. We've got 2 North Poles, and the South Pole has left the Antarctic continent entirely and is somewhere in the Indian Ocean south of Australia. Looks like most of the perturbations here in this latest pulse are over the Canadian North Pole, although there are some over the Siberian as well. Net North Pole between Greenland and Svalbard. We don't see any proton events. No surprise there. No Earth-facing coronal mass ejections. Again, some minor X-ray flaring there. Nothing even quite into the C-class range, and those appeared to come out of sunspot 2795, the newest sunspot, and the most likely one to produce larger solar flares. GOES magnetometer showing us some pretty high readings here over the past, at least the past 36 hours. There's a 3-day chart of that. And here's the polarity of the current sheet. And the Earth surprisingly in the South Pole current sheet, an indication that the South Solar Polar Field is quite strong. This data is 1 hour 13 minutes old. It shows you the North Pole oriented current sheet in green. Pretty surprising there. Next, looking at the coronal hole field plot, and we see this Earth-facing South Polar coronal hole there, and shown in red. And we're expecting a smaller coronal hole wind stream from that in about 2 days. And here's the same view, which also shows you the solar magnetogram. And on both of these images, it's showing you the B field, the sun's B field, in blue. This also shows the solar polar fields in green and red. Here's the field plot of the solar corona, the sun's atmosphere. And before we move on to electrons, let me just go back to the life of the stream once again and make sure that we are good to go. And indeed we are. So we see a little bit of charging hazards here over northwestern Mexico and the central Pacific Ocean. Here's a one-year chart of the electron flux, and here's where I was wrong. I was forecasting the electron flux to stay down here, and NOAA hit it right on the nose this time. So I like to be wrong, because when I'm wrong, it causes me to learn things and admit it to our viewers immediately and not try to cover up the facts and gaslight people. Next, looking at the electron flux on the 3-day chart. There you can see we didn't quite get to warning levels here, and that is 1,000 pulse flux units. And our patrons know a bit about this, as we send alerts to our patrons when we see electron flux warning levels. Here's a visualization of the air column. This will give you an idea of where GPS errors would happen, and we see a little bit less anomalous errors here, mainly centered around the equator around noontime, which is what you would expect in a more normal range of electron flux. And we look at all these variables daily. It took us months and months to figure out which variables to look at, as we're interested in certain geophysics. So here's just a diagram of what you're looking at there. Shows you the Van Allen belts, shows you the altitudes in miles to things like the SGO there on the right, GPS satellites on the left. And here's another diagram showing you atmosphere layers. That red F on the right, that would be the F ionosphere layer, where the GOES 16 endeavors to make its measurements. Keep in mind that the altitudes here are listed in kilometers. Here's a visualization of just the ionosphere layer. And it's looking a little more normal here, again, as the electron flux has returned to a more normal range, despite the continuation of a high-speed coronal hole wind. And I'll bring up the latest image, that one coming in at 11:30 Universal Time, and we're a little bit late today. Let's do volcanoes. Klyuchevskoye is erupting. It's producing a 23,000-foot ash plume as it explodes. Sakurajima, 7,000-foot ash plume there. Suwanosejima exploded as well. Unknown ash cloud there. Don't fly your hang glider over Suwanosejima. Popocatépetl exploding. 19,000-foot ash plume there. Fuego, Sangay, and Revenador all exploding. 15,000, 22,000, and 15,000-foot ash plumes respectively, and we're unable to detect the activity at Sabancaya. Please do not attempt the Fosbury flop over the caldera. And for you viewers who don't understand what the Fosbury flop is, that is the backward jump that people use for the high jump, discovered by some guy called Fosbury. Everybody uses it now, as jumping over the bar backwards allows you to fling your feet up in the air better and get a higher jump. Here's what's going on with the pressure situation. We've got some extreme high pressure there over the Central Rockies, around the Great Salt Lake. Clear skies likely over that area as a result of high pressure. Also high pressure dominating the North Atlantic. And we'll advance this into tomorrow, Christmas. There's where we expect pressure cells to be at noon my time. That's the Euro forecast. Here's the GFS forecast. And I had the Euro forecast pulled up for snowfall reasons. Windy.com also has a great mobile app. Powerful low pressure cell moving anomalously. To the east of Greenland there. It suddenly intensified, according to the GFS forecast. Expecting some heavy rains here in eastern Pennsylvania. By the way, we'll get to it in a minute. First, we're going to look at earthquakes over the past 24. Nothing over a 6 magnitude as the massive earthquake drought continues. It looks like the largest of the past 24 was this 5.9 near Palau, east of the Philippines. Some small deep quakes striking southern Alaska. Again, no major quakes as the large earthquake drought continues. Here's a deep one striking western South America. It's a 4.3 at 166 kilometers depth. And Kilauea's been erupting. Were you aware? Let's go take a look. But first, let's see where this 2,000 meter above sea level. That's about 6,000 feet above sea level, folks. And that would happen under Mauna Loa. On the western flank, under the caldera there, at 6,000 feet of altitude, roughly. And let's just check the sulfur dioxide plume. And we'll bring this back to the current situation and check out all the sulfur dioxide over the Central Pacific Ocean. There you go. Kilauea. Still producing volcanic rotten egg smelling gas. Big time. And thanks for leaving a comment, Tin Man 1057. Good morning to you too. Next, looking at jet streams. Here at the Smash News Network, we look at jet streams on the daily and check out the extreme bends. 180-degree bends there over the Atlantic Ocean as well as over British Columbia. And indeed over the central U.S. Funneling some cold air down from Canada and some warm air into Canada. That was the Western world. Here are the jet streams of the Eastern world. We like to use nullschool.net. It's the 250 hectopascal winds, which show us where the jet stream's located. Doubled up jet streams over both hemispheres in the east. We see some terrestrial lightning here in the U.S. I like to use lightningmaps.org when I hear thunder. And if you're in Nolens, go look to the south, especially if you're on a skyscraper. You may see some sprites above that thunderstorm. Perhaps get some time-lapse footage and submit it to our channel. We'll feature it on the Daily Space Weather videos. And we've got about a 1,500-mile line of storms here that's going to make its way through Pennsylvania by tonight, eliminating the possibility for a white Christmas with over an inch of rain forecasted for Lehigh Valley. And here's the GOES lightning mapper. We saw some serious lightning there, especially in Mississippi, also in Louisiana, Alabama, and a little bit in the Florida Panhandle. How about the U.S. Doppler radar map? And that's yesterday. There we go. Just give that a minute to load, folks. It was showing us yesterday's Doppler. There we go. There's today's Doppler radar map. And western Pennsylvania already getting some heavy rain. Very heavy rain in Alabama. Moving into the south. Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York. All going to get heavy rains. Southern Florida should be spared as it's moving slightly to the northeast. And here's the forecast, the GFS forecast that is, on tropical tidbits. System should move through pretty quickly with some cold air trailing. And it looks like some lake effect snow are going to kick up after that. West Virginia going to get hit with more snow, according to the GFS forecast. Next, looking at the cloud layer. It's not quite light enough to view the visible satellite yet. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer. And here's a water vapor map. And that dry mass of air is helping to not only push that moisture through, but also compress it. And you can see where that jet stream is dipping down there in the central U.S. Again, there's the cloud layer. Here's the water vapor. And no need to zoom in there, but there is a reason to stay tuned here so you don't miss the bonus features, which will include the solar intensitygram and the colorized magnetogram. You gotta have it. So here's a fantastic view of the magnetism of sunspot 2794 and 2795. Quite a bit of space between these two umbrae. They are opposite polarity, which makes it a beta class sunspot. There are the intensitygram. And again, 2795 has grown since yesterday. A couple more segments here for you, the HelioViewer movies. We've got a full disc view in a 304 angstroms. Significant filament down there in the southeast. Some possibility of coronal mass ejections and solar flares, as we do have some filamentary plasma in between Earth and Sun, also a coronal hole. You get a better view of that in 193 angstroms, which we'll show you momentarily. First, 171 angstroms. And there's that. We'll also show you an extreme close-up of the magnetism, and it's pretty delightful today. And 171 angstroms is my personal favorite. And here's that coronal hole. It is South Pole oriented, just ahead of sunspot 2794. And there's a fantastic view of 2794 and 2795. And you can see the South Pole oriented magnetism of 2794 larger than the Earth itself. Last but not least, it's a close-up in 171 angstroms. And it's me wishing you a Merry Christmas, or Happy Holidays, or Happy Kwanzaa, or Happy STFU, whatever you're happying. Thanks again for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink unless you want to, and if you do, don't drive. No matter how much the government drives you to drink, please don't drive if you drink. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that covidiously absent from your sleigh.